What's up, you guys? My name is Hutch. I make videos, put them on the internet. This is another edition of Ask Hutch, where you ask me questions and I try to answer them as honestly as I can. I pulled these questions from Twitter, from everybody who used the hashtag AskHutch, and I'm just going to jump right into it. Sterling wants to ask, what's the most humbling experience you've ever had as a content creator? The most humbled I've ever felt was probably right when I started working at Machinima, because I was riding on this huge wave of popularity, and I guess in my mind I thought that was enough to make me credible in the games industry. And yet once I showed up and I actually saw how much work goes into production, I quickly realized that I knew very, very little about this industry and about what it meant to, edit a proper video, and there's countless other examples. So I think just like for the first time being surrounded by people that had been working already in the industry for years, and then that realization of, oh, just because I had a few people like me on YouTube, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm at their level. Vanny wants to ask, have you ever smoked pot? I think a very similar question would be, is water wet? Caitlin wants to ask, what did you miss most about working, what do you miss most? Caitlin wants to ask, what do you miss most about working with Nanners and Sark? I think there are a few things that I miss about working with those gentlemen, but if I had to absolutely pick one thing, I think it would just be the fact that basically every workday, from the time I got there until the time I went home, I was laughing quite a bit, and it was really easy to laugh when you work with someone like Sark and Nanners. Like the way that him and I bounced off each other was always super funny to me. So when you're a YouTuber and a streamer and you work from home, you don't really get that interaction from having a job and having coworkers and things like that. You're just in the house by yourself most of the time. So like when you work with creative people and funny people, then I think it brings out a more creative and funny side of yourself. And so I think I would have to say that I miss that more than anything. Toonami wants to ask, what's your favorite part of life right now? My favorite part of life right now that's a tough one. I love my pets. Like they're running around right now. Like they're huge, like a huge reason that I'm like a happy dude for the most part. I'm really happy in my relationship right now. This is definitely the most stable I've ever been as far as being in a relationship. And then just the fact that like I don't have that same amount of dread and fear about the future that I did just a few short years ago. So I guess if you had to pick one thing, I think I would have to say just the fact that my life is just a lot more stable now than it was before, and that allows me to give an honest appraisal of my past and give a realistic look at my options for the future. When you're kind of stuck in the present and you're not really doing that well, it has a tendency of clouding both your past and how you see yourself in the future. And I'm really glad that I don't carry that with me today. Angel of Death wants to ask, how do you feel about COD's current road? Do you think they should continue with the sci-fi or go more modern? I think that COD is in a tough place right now because it seems like to me it doesn't matter what they announce. If they were to come out this month and announce that they were making a COD, a Civil War era COD, I don't think people would be into that. If they said they were going back to Vietnam, like I don't think a lot of people. I think that there's a bunch of small groups that want COD to be this one specific thing. And I had someone reach out to me on Twitter today and say that, well, most people want COD to go back to like modern times, but I don't think that's true. I mean, we've only been in the future for 3 CODs, because COD Ghost was like 2022 or something like that. Same thing with Black Ops. Or Black Ops 2, it wasn't even that far ahead. Like really the only future games that I consider the series to take place in was Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 3. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is like they could announce anything, and I think it would get like a lot of hate. I feel fine about COD's current trajectory, but I'm not as big of a fan as boots on the ground as a lot of people on Twitter are. I don't mind exosuits. I think they could have been better, and I love thruster packs. I think the movement in Black Ops 3 is really good, and I wouldn't do anything to change it. I really like it. So I mean, I'm happy with COD being in the future, because the only limit is their imagination. Like they can make up whatever they want, and it takes place in their universe. If you go back to the past, you're really locked into what was there at the time. I don't want to go back to World War II and play with Mosin Nagants and Thompsons and MP40s and grease guns and things like that. I really don't. And I think that would be a huge mistake if they did that. Matt wants to ask, how would you recommend choosing a tattoo you would not regret? I think my bar as far as picking something that I'm going to put on my body permanently has to be that it has to be something that I've loved almost my whole life, or in simpler terms, or in a less like strict sense, something that I've loved for a really long time and I know that I'm gonna love until the day I die. That's my bar. I mean, I think some people overthink tattoos a little bit. Yes, you're putting something permanent on your body, but I think that if a lot of people are afraid of getting tattoos because they're afraid that they're not gonna be happy with what they put on themselves like years from now. And I mean, I grew up with video games. Like I have these tattoos here. I grew up with Mario. I know I'm gonna love those memories of playing that game for the rest of my life. Radiohead is a band that I really very much doubt that I'll ever not love. BioShock is a game that I know I'm going to think about. It doesn't matter 20 years from now, I'm still going to look back at that game and think that it was a masterpiece. And then I have some other stuff on my body too that I'm just positive that I'm never going to stop loving. So that's what I would say. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm curious. Khalid wants to ask, hey Hutch, when did you decide to quit your job to become a full-time gamer? I quit my job to become a full-time gamer. Well, I think it's more than just... First of all, like I didn't take any insult from your question, but I want to clarify that people that do YouTube and streaming don't just sit around and play video games all day. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that people that have never done that themselves, they don't understand how much work goes into it. But there's a lot more to this job than just playing video games. It's a big part of the job, but it's not the only part of the job. But when I decided to quit my actual job at the time to become a full-time gamer was when I first was in a position where I could make money off of videos on YouTube. So I was submitting my videos to Machinima and they would put it up on their channel and I would get paid I would get paid a flat CPM. And when the first quarter of me posting with them, I made almost the same amount of money as I was waiting tables at the time. That's when I thought it was a pretty safe bet to quit my day job. Dustin wants to ask, have you ever thought about leaving YouTube behind and doing Twitch full-time instead? No, I've never thought about that. The only thing that I've adjusted is it's hard to make the kind of like super high quality videos that you want to make every day when you're also streaming 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours in the same day. It can get kind of exhausting and tedious sitting in front of a computer screen that long. So I've had to make some concessions with regards to YouTube to accommodate Twitch, because I think that that's a huge, big, important part of my life now. Is streaming is really kind of like reinvigorated my love for what I do. But no, I've never once thought about quitting YouTube altogether in favor of just doing Twitch. Daniel wants to ask, has suffering with depression in the past impacted who you are as a person now? Fuck yeah. That's something that once you go through an episode of depression, of serious depression that lasts for like months or maybe even over a year or like a couple years, then I think that that's something that you take with you until the day you die. Like that, I think I'm forever gonna have that little, like to borrow a phrase from Dexter, that dark passenger just kind of following me around. I don't think that's ever gonna leave. The difference is that these days there's like other voices in my head that compete with that sort of depressed voice, the one that looks at the world and sees a very bleak situation and doesn't see a lot of reason for hope. There's other voices that kind of counter that now, and I'm able to sort of ignore it in a way that I wasn't before. That's not to say that I don't have bad days. Like some days I do feel that kind of gray cloud like creeping up and following me around all day, and it makes me feel like I don't really want to talk to people. I don't really want to be around people, even my girlfriend, and I live with her. But those days are few and far between now, and hopefully with like some maintenance that I can kind of keep that tendency right now. Johnny wants to ask, what's your biggest regret, done or not? I don't really understand what done or not means, but I can say that the biggest regret that I have is getting married. Not because of the fallout and how sort of uncomfortable it was and painful it was to kind of go through a divorce, because it's not fun, but the biggest reason why I regret getting married is because I didn't really put a whole lot of thought into it at the time. I didn't really properly consider, you know, how is my life going to change? And even if it's fun for the first couple months, like what's my life going to look like in a year? And on top of all that, I really jeopardized a friendship. Like I don't think her and I are ever going to have the kind of friendship that we had back in the day. And I think that's kind of a shame because we did have an awesome friendship. But going through a process like this does strain put a strain on both of you. And so, and I do regret that. Some people say like no regrets and it's better not to have any regrets. And I disagree. I think it can be a really good thing to have regrets because it lets you learn from your mistakes. John wants to ask, how is it trying to balance your personal political views and maintain YouTube, Twitter? It's not easy because like what's the point of having social media if you can't express your beliefs on certain things, particularly when it comes to politics and even religion, things like that? Like what is the point of social media if you can't be honest with people? But at the same time, you don't want to marginalize people or alienate people that follow you because they look at the world differently. Like I'm not a Trump supporter, I'm not a Donald Trump fan. I just think if you follow my Twitter, you know that. But at the same time, I don't automatically assume that someone that follows Trump is an idiot. They're stupid, they're uninformed, they're ignorant, they're racist. I don't assume any of these things, and it would be nice if people made the same assumptions about me being like a Bernie supporter. Like it would be nice if people didn't assume that, you know, I don't want to work for a living and I want someone else to take care of me or whatever other ridiculous accusation people make. But that's basically impossible. You're gonna piss off some people just talking about it, and I think what I'm learning now is like the frequency of these posts probably needs to diminish substantially in order to not alienate a lot of people. But I would want, in an ideal world, I would want people to respect my point of view, even if their point of view is different. But that's not really the world that we live in. And it looks like that's the last question. Thank you guys so much for posting your well thought out questions, and I hope you guys have a really nice weekend. If you guys have any thoughts that you want to piggyback off of anything that I said, then please feel free to leave a comment. I particularly read through almost every single one of the comments that go up on these videos, and I like having conversations with you guys. So jump in the comments, let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you later.